And we are rolling. I am joined now by Ambassador Haroon of the Pakistani Mission to the United Nations. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you first about the big news of the day, which is President Obama's speech in Cairo. I wanted to know if his speech matched your expectations and your general reaction to his talk today.
I believe too much is being asked from him in this speech. There were very high expectations, which is unfair to begin with. But what I would say is he has created some hope. There are some new things he said. There are some paradigm shifts as being seen by envoys of the UN from around the world. But I think the relevant portion is, as far as we're concerned, there was no mention of terrorism in his speech, which left us a little short-winded. You know, I thought, my God, is that an omission that is deliberate or not?
And what is your take? Was it deliberate, do you think?
I can't say. I'm not in the business of guessing.
Okay.
But I think it was important. It should have been said, and it was not said.
Okay. I guess another bit of news today. Speaking of terrorism, was the release of Hafiz Saeed from house arrest in Pakistan. I'm wondering, for viewers unaware, he's the leader of the LAT, which is an organization that the Security Council designated as being affiliated with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. I'm wondering if you have any reaction to news today about that.
Well, let me correct you.
Please.
He was not the leader of the LAT.
Okay.
That's another person. As far as Hafiz Saeed is concerned, the Security Council, Taliban committee, created a prescription. His entire affairs, his organizations, his money, his travel, everything prescribed. But there was no suggestion for him to be incarcerated. And you must remember that through a people's struggle in Pakistan, the courts have been reinvigorated by the return of judges who are fiercely independent. And when there was no requirement of incarceration in the United Nations order, and within the laws of that order, they asked the government to explain why he was arrested and why he should not be released. And I don't think that they could do very much more than show the order. On the basis of that, I think he was released by a fairly clear decision of the court.
As a diplomat, are you worried at all about the effect this might have with Pakistan's relationship with India? And are you worried about how India might perceive this decision?
I would put it two ways, and I have said this much myself. Are you familiar in any way with the work of Hafiz Saeed? He's not LAT, he's Jamaat-e-Dawa. Okay. And it's a purely social organization who works not for Islam alone, but as charitable work around the world. When the tsunami hit Sri Lanka, they were the strongest presence on some parts of the coast. And they have letters from the ICRC to prove that. When the earthquake hit in Iran, they were the first to get there, and again have relevant documents available showing the work they did there. And when, of course, the earthquake hit Pakistan, they were again amongst the first. They run a very large myriad of institutions which in fact contribute to social good. Now, if you say that, but they have an ideological belief, or maybe they do, well, that's not enough to sink anyone. Otherwise, you'll have every second group in the US of A being accused of something or the other based on the ideology. So it's not that. I think one must be rational towards it. The United Nations did not order his incarceration, and the Supreme Court released him on the belief that it was outside the parameters of the prescription.
Are you worried that this might complicate your relationship with India at all?
Well, you know, India is a fairly large and mature country. I think we have had reasons to believe that at times both India and Pakistan have behaved in a fashion which one might not consider to be very appropriate. But let me tell you this, and I have no doubt in my mind that this has to change. India is assuming larger proportions. I think we're not into elections anymore. The situation is not what it was a few months ago. The reality of this is that yes, they have made a noise about it, but I don't think that noise is going to be as effective as it was a couple of months back when they were in elections. And the very interesting thing about the Indian voter, the BJP tried to play out the anti-Pakistan card and they lost elections badly. And Narendra Modi, who was responsible for the deaths of a number of Muslims in India, who thought he was going to sweep his state, lost half the seats and didn't get the results he anticipated. I think the Indian people, the Indian government and the Indian nation by large are not, I think they would like to see security, they would like to see much more openness on the borders, they'd like to see an intermingling of the races. And I think to exaggerate that into any other direction would be a waste of time.
Switching topics, I was wondering if you could describe the humanitarian situation right now in the Swat Valley. You know, there have been a flood of refugees. Is Pakistan getting what it needs from the international community to meet this crisis?
We had close to 3 million refugees from the Afghan war spillover still there. We still have a large number of people from the earthquake 2 years ago. We had floods last year. We had a large number of people displaced since then. And now this. I don't think we can really afford it. Our resources are strained to the absolute limit. We were preparing for this for a long time. We anticipated this. We said to them, we'll cover it as much as we could. The United Nations will tell you 80% of those affected by SWAP, and the diaspora is over 2 million, are already living with people who have homes who can help them. For example, in my homes in the north of the country, we are helping people living there, and we're feeding them as well and doing what we can. So if 80% of their diaspora are being looked after by Pakistanis who are sharing their scant resources with them, it's 20%, which number about 500,000 plus, which I believe are the difficult situation. Now, Ban Ki-moon spoke on this 2 days ago. He said, we didn't get any money, we're anticipating money, and I think he's today in Washington trying to raise some. He's meeting the Vice President and many others. I believe that the response so far has been inadequate. Now, whether you respond or not, we'll go to it alone, we'll put our situation right for what it's worth. But I think at a time like this, when the Al-Qaeda and Taliban are threatening world security, the world has a responsibility to fight it here. Because if they don't fight it here, they'll have to fight it in other places. It might be China, it might be India, it might be the Middle East. So they will get to the strategic assets of the world and threaten from there, or maybe the United States again. So it would be appropriate thinking to stop them here dead in their tracks.
So along those lines, since taking office, as you well know, the Obama administration has combined in a way the conflict in Afghanistan and expanded it into Pakistan and combined strategies, and this has included an increased use of airstrikes, of unmanned drones on Pakistani territory.
I don't think unmanned drones have helped anything. They may have got the vagrant Al-Qaeda man, but the political fallout is immense, and I don't think. I wish they'd give us the drones and let us handle it directly ourselves. It would have a better impact. Now, I tell you, I think there is a substantial acceleration of making it understood, even here, that the Pakistani people need our help. But between words, and we're very grateful for the administration's policy and all that it's doing, but between those words and actual implementations, we're still a little far away. And in fact, you might be interested to know that a poor country like Pakistan was recently hauled up by the IMF saying, you're deficit financing again. And we looked at those figures, and it was found out that the oil supplies to Afghanistan, to the American forces there, the bill for about 900 million to $1 billion hasn't been paid by the US of A on actual supply. So I think, let alone what we need, and we need communication equipment, night goggles, we need better ordnance, and we need a lot of things that will help this effort. I think we're even helping deficit finance your requirements in Afghanistan to a degree that we cannot afford. I'm sure the bills will be paid, but for it not to be paid for a year has put us in a quandary. So really speaking, we're doing everything. We're fighting this war. You might believe it's for the world, I believe it's for ourselves. And the only thing is, any aspect from here will flow to the rest of the world. So it's best we put our shoulders together, our heads together, our resources together, and do something about it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Ambassador.
Thank you.
And we'll